How do you feel as though your rights have changed from when you were a minor? Minor being 17 and under.
Well, honestly, as a whole, I don't feel it's really changed. I mean, I know there's things that I can do, but I still feel like I'm still a kid, so I haven't really exercised most of those rights. Although I did register to vote.
You did? Okay.
So that's really the main thing that I did.
Mostly just like voting has changed.
And I got my upgraded license, my 18-year-old license, but honestly I don't really feel that much different when I was 17. Yeah, I mean, there's things that I can do, like I could get married if I wanted to, but it's like, I don't feel ready to do like things like that, and like I could join the military, I could do all this stuff that I wouldn't want to do yet.
You're a college student, yes? You're a freshman?
Okay.
Do you find your student code of conduct easily accessible, and do you find it easy to follow?
I haven't actually officially read the student code of conduct. I mean, I know they have one, but it's like very long, so it's like, don't necessarily want to read all of it.
These are your rights, Laura.
Yes, that's true, but
This is your rules. What if there's like a fine print rule? You just didn't know that then.
I guess I just wouldn't know. They actually had this whole controversy recently about changing the sexual assault policy here, and they didn't make it really obvious to students how you could like see it, and it was just like this whole big debacle about it. And so there was like controversy between the students and the faculty because the students didn't know what it was, and the faculty was not being clear on what it was. So there was like a whole controversy over that, but now they're trying to be a lot more clear with what the policy actually is.
Do you know about that, or do you know what the policy was, why it started up controversy?
It was, they recently changed it, but they didn't, when they made like a small change, but they didn't tell students that they were changing it. So students weren't unhappy with the change, they were just unhappy that they weren't told about the change.
What was the change?
It was basically some small thing that was, in the past, like, they used to be able to bring up, like, a victim's previous sexual history, and they changed it so that, like, that was no longer relevant, but the way that it was, like, spoken about made it seem like it was the opposite, so now they could bring up your sexual past, which shouldn't be relevant for sexual assault, and so there's a big controversy about that. So and also students were just upset because they just didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
So it's like better now because they've made it more aware, but it's just like students didn't know what was happening, and it's like they felt like this is our school, we should actually know what the policy is.
So now, since you or most students don't read the student code of conduct, how did you know about this change? How did it?
I heard about it from other students, and there was like emails about it, and they even had this whole like faculty meeting about it that students were allowed to like listen in on, and they had this whole Q&A with faculty once the students asked faculty like, what is the policy, and like, why wouldn't you tell us what it was before? So I heard about it from other students.
Well, going off of that, why do you feel as though people are ignorant of their rights because they had not known certain aspects of that law, for instance? Why do you feel as though students aren't going out to figure this out for themselves?
Also, like, I feel like the school, like, they have it available, but it's not, like, super available, so they don't actively talk about it with you. So they're like, okay, we have this, like, 400, not necessarily 400 page, but, like, this really long document you could read. And, like, a lot of people aren't going to actually take the time to go out and read this really long document. So it's just, like, they don't, like, put it into simpler terms so students will actually read it and understand it. It's very wordy, so it's, like, hard to understand, and you wouldn't necessarily want to read it.
What are some ways that students can become more aware of their rights, and what do you think colleges can do differently to fix this problem?
I think like faculty should be more open to talking about it, because that was part of the problem, that they were just very secretive about what it was, and so that was a big controversy. So if faculty were more willing to have meetings about it, and then they, like if they had faculty meetings where students were allowed to sit in on or ask questions like during it, so that way they could be more aware. And maybe just like talk about it more in general, like have meetings about it so that students could, like meetings with the students to talk about it, or just even have like maybe a simplified version of the document, or maybe like require students to read the document so they actually understand what's going on. If you don't know what the policy is, you're more likely to be upset about it because you'd rather know something bad than not know at all, because not knowing is a lot worse than you know, does that make sense? But yeah.
Well, yeah, because as far as like laws go, ignorance isn't always bliss.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you could change or add any of your campus rules, what would you do and why?
Well, I would definitely make them more open about the sexual assault policy and just policies in general.
Now, did you know about the sexual assault? issue or what the law is exactly, or are you still kind of cloudy on that?
I have a better idea of what it is, but I don't know exactly what it is. So basically, if like someone accuses another person of rape, they usually will have like a campus trial to determine if the accusation is true and like what will be done about it, like if any action will be taken against the person who committed the sexual assault. And so previously, what they had a law saying that the victim's previous sexual history could be taken into account. So basically, this person had a lot of sexual partners, that they could like use that against them, which really shouldn't be relevant because that person, like what happens now doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what happened in the past. So basically now they took that out and saying that your previous sexual history shouldn't matter.
If you think it's a better law, why did it cause so much controversy onto the campus?
It's mainly because students weren't aware of what it was, and they weren't aware of the change, and we were just told that it was changed without being told what the change was. And then when students would ask faculty about it, they were like very secretive and like wouldn't talk about it. And so people would ask the president, and like the president just like wouldn't really say anything about it. So it was not the fact that it was changed, is that we were changed and weren't told what the change was and like why. So it was just, that was more the issue.
Do you know how they made the decision on the law and how they came up with how they put it into action?
I think the faculty like voted on it. Like they have like the faculty votes on those kinds of things, and then they had some sort of meeting, and there was like a proposal put forth, and they voted to put that new law into place. But you would think that like students should be aware of the policies because it affects them. So it's just like frustrating that they wouldn't tell us at first. Also, we have like student government, so like if like the student representatives from student government were able to vote as well, that might be better, because then the students would feel like they have more of a say in what actually happened.
Okay, well, thank you for your time, Laura.
Thank
It was nice interviewing you.
Yes.
Hope you enjoy your stay at Dickinson College.
Yes.